Thank you, good people of adtech. Today we defeat communism. What a day. Well, thank you for coming today. By bike, by Flixbus, by piggyback, by boat. Amazing. Thank you very much. This first panel is discussing just basically the explosion of retail media. We've been hearing about it for the last 2-3 years, and now it's a real thing, right? We have every retailer that we can think of starting up their own sort of retail media solution. We have commerce media giants are rolling out their own sort of solutions as well. This is a proper category in ad tech, which is great to see. So I want to basically introduce the panel first, and then we'll kick it off. Henry.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. My name is Henry Stokes. I'm at PayPal. I've been there about 8 months, and my role is to set up PayPal's new advertising proposition in the UK. We're already established in the US, already rolling out in Germany as well. So this is a new opportunity for PayPal and a very exciting time, but it's great to be here today.
Awesome. And I'm James Avery, the founder and CEO of Kevel. We power a lot of their retail media platforms that you see being built. And we partner with PayPal in helping them roll out their new commerce media platform. And happy to be here.
All right, let's kick it off, James. Let's start with you. Why has retail media and commerce media become such a powerful category in ad tech? Let's jump into it. We want to talk about commerce media and retail media because those two terms kind of interlink quite a lot. But why has it become such a powerful sort of go-to for brands in the space?
Yeah, I mean, I think and I'm not sure it's that new of a thing. I think it's just now gotten to be.
It's very popular.
It's very popular, right? But I think it's really been this push to get as close to a transaction as possible. Like I think when we look at a lot of traditional advertising, you're on a publisher's page, you're showing you're trying to get somebody to click on a banner ad. Retail media and commerce media in general is really getting really close to that actual transaction, right? And that could be you're searching on bookings.com for something, you're searching at your grocery store, you're getting food delivery, you're whatever it is that you're doing, it's really getting that ad as close to that transaction as possible. And then the other piece is really the data, right? When we look at the availability of data that these retailers and commerce media platforms have, it's really pretty unique, right? If you go to a major grocery store and you use your loyalty card, they know everything you're buying week after week for sometimes 15 years, right? The amount of data that they have that they can then apply as part of that media campaign is kind of unparalleled anywhere else.
Yeah, Henry.
Well, I mean, I'll just build on that. I mean, I think, we've had this sword hanging over our heads with the deprecation of cookies for so many years. And I think, a lot of retailers looked at what they had in terms of their data sets and thought, hold on, this is logged in, as you say, real quality first party data and the ability to leverage that and drive new revenues for them was significant. And in terms of the growth, I think the fact that if you're a non-advertising business like PayPal, like any other retail media partner, you now have this ad tech opportunity to start up a business pretty easily. You can build that stack. So I think the tools have made it possible, and that's obviously from a supply side. That's why it's grown so quickly.
Yeah, and I'd say one of the other things you reminded me of this has really been a couple years now, but I think what started the kind of fervor around it was when Amazon broke out their numbers. And everybody suddenly realized that Amazon, every time they shipped you something, they were losing money, and all their margin, all their profit was coming from the ads business. And that they had built a massive ads business on the top of this commerce. And people like Walmart suddenly said, hey, we're never going to be able to compete with Amazon if we're trying to make money shipping out this pack of diapers when Amazon's losing 50 cents on that, but making $2 in media.
Yeah. I want to talk about the role independent ad tech plays in this, right? Because this is an independent ad tech conference. I don't think I've had Google sponsor for at least 10 years, and I don't think Google will ever sponsor again. Although everybody seems to be suing Google, so I might sue them as well for lost revenue, maybe. And we'll see how that goes. I had to get that in. But let's talk about independent ad tech and the role it plays, right? So how important is it for a business like PayPal to work with someone like Kevel or other vendors that are not like have a sort of like adjacent ad business, right? How important is that sort of like unbiased approach?
Well, I mean, let me just start by saying I think when you're a very established business like PayPal, like many other retail media players, from an emotional point of view, you want to work for somebody who is heavily invested in you. You're a big business. You don't want to go and work with a bigger business who maybe sees you as a bit of a fringe sort of partner. So I think there's a straight away there's a need for these retail media partners to work with somebody who is dedicated to them and has custom technology that's going to enable them to innovate and grow their businesses. So I think there's an emotional thing straight away.
Yeah, and I think what I would add to that is, I think when we look at who companies we work with, is that they kind of get to be the main character, right? Like our job isn't to be out there trying to sell to agencies, try to sell to brands. What we're saying is, how do we help PayPal build a world-class, network, right? And how do we enable them to do that? But they're the kind of the main character, right? It's why we wanted them to be on stage with us today. Because we want to talk about the innovation that they're doing, because they're trying to go compete with a Facebook or Google or the other kind of places that media dollars can be spent. And so I think that's where I think the independent piece comes into it, is that we're not out there trying to be the face of retail media for all these agencies and brands. We're trying to help people build competitors to some of the biggest media companies in the world.
And talk about your partnership then with PayPal. Are you building custom piece, or is it the ad server? Explain to us how you piece all this, because there's quite a lot going on in a typical retail media, commerce media solution, right? A stack has got everything from data management to data activation to retargeting to on-site advertising. There's a lot going on there from a technical perspective. So talk about how you work together, because this has not just been an overnight thing. You've been talking about PayPal have been doing this preparing this for years. They hired some serious hitters. Dr. Mark, Dr. Mark, who was at Uber and has had did a great job launching that. So, there's been a huge process involved here. So just talk a little bit to that and how you work on a custom basis as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing I would say is that one of the impressive things is how quick PayPal moves. Because Mark joined almost a year ago now.
It's a year ago.
And I think it's really a testament to what it takes to kind of build a world-class network really quickly. Is that they have moved extremely quickly. I think, but when we get to the technical details, right? Because I think this is an adtech conference. We talk about some of the key things that PayPal needs to do is leverage this unique data that they have, right? They have a tremendous amount of data, not just about individual users of PayPal, but commerce across the entire internet. But how do they do that in a safe way? When we talk to companies where if you're a retailer or you're a payments platform, the first job is do no harm, right? You can't hurt the core business, right? If you're a retailer, you can't slow down people from checking out. You can't get bad press around what you're doing with your data. None of those things can happen. So you have to really be able to operate in a way where you can use your first-party data, but you're not just sharing it out to the world. You're not leaking this data out there. You're not joining it to 70 different cookies and data providers and just throwing it out to these marketplaces and saying do whatever you want with it, right? You're really holding it close to the best. And so that's what we enable, is kind of through our API approach. You can load all your first-party data. You can do fine-grained targeting and attribution and other things like that without that data ever getting out of your system, without an advertiser getting access to it, right? They can still target people and get the results they're looking for. And then I think with our API approach, right, you also don't want tags on pages. You don't want SDKs in apps. You want to be able to make server-to-server calls where we don't even know, right? We couldn't go in and say, what did Kieran buy recently on this website, right? Nobody wants to know.
Nobody wants to know that.
But we couldn't do that either, right? It's because it's isolated from us, and only PayPal retains that knowledge. And so I think that's the really important part when we look at kind of traditional publisher ad tech, where as a publisher, you kind of had to throw all these tags and cookies, and you have 67 trackers on your website because you have to make money. These groups have the opportunity to say, we're not going to do that. It's going to be all server to server. It's going to be data stored anonymously, but really get a lot of the benefits that that you want, right? Drive more revenue.
Yeah, and I think if you think about some of the data points, it's an incredibly sort of important to be very privacy compliant. I mean, we're not just talking about what you buy on certain retailers. This is across multi-category purchases. So we build up a complete picture. We're talking about the way people have bought something. Did they use a buy now, pay later product? Did they use a credit product? So some of the data points, are they using crypto? Are they buying cross-border, et cetera, et cetera? So we have to have absolute trust in the way that data is handled.
Does that slow it down? Because there has to be you'd be so careful about how that data is used. I mean, your DPO is sitting on every decision within the business.
Yeah, I just think it's made us very focused on the right partners. It made us focused on the right process. The consent framework that we have. So, I don't think it's necessarily slowed us down. As James said, in a year we've managed to build a business very quickly, and but it does put that at the very top of our importance rank.
So let's just change the gears around PayPal for a minute, right? So what makes your proposition so unique, right? Let's talk about that, because you do have all this amazing commerce data, but what you come into market, right? You've got to bring this, because you've got a sales team, you got to sell it into the holdcos, the independents, the brands, so how do you position it versus the other retail media, the other walled gardens? What's the secret sauce for PayPal?
Well, I think the first point is to remind people of the scale. This is a 25-year-old business, and we do have a really significant audience, both from a consumer point of view, but also all of those merchants who still have the PayPal button at checkout. That's 30 million merchants globally who have that PayPal button. So first of all, is a sort of reminder of the scale proposition, and all of the different components of PayPal. So as I say, whether it's crypto, whether it's cross-border, whether it's peer-to-peer transactions, etc. But I think one of the points that we really tried to do at PayPal was think about what makes us unique, and it is the fact that we're a payments business. So the fact that you own that complete payment process, and you can think about the right audience, the right message, the right offer, so degree of cashback or incentive that we want to give a user to transact, and then the right way to pay, whether we want to tee up a credit product or purchase right now. So all of those components can actually sort of facilitate a transaction, and then what we've tried to do is shorten that process. So we've enabled merchants, as we call them, retailers, to put their storefront in an ad unit and to facilitate a purchase directly from that ad unit with PayPal. So literally a 2-click purchase within an ad without ever leaving the website or app that you're on.
And that would run on the PayPal owned and operated?
No, that would run across third-party inventory.
Right.
So essentially taking that purchase opportunity to a massive reach, and
so audience extension effectively with a unique.
But again, leveraging the unique aspect of PayPal. And I think that's a big lesson for retail media is what makes your retail media proposition unique. What is it about it? Is it the fact that you're sitting in an Uber car and you have that moment of dwell, or is it the fact that we can facilitate payments? And I think that's the way to win.
A lot of retailers and commerce media businesses, James, they start off with endemic advertisers, right? But they kind of sort of move to non-endemic, and it's generally owned and operated. But then they want sort of managed service, but they want the external sort of demand as well. What are you seeing from that perspective? Because obviously you see the Trade Desk and other DSPs integrated into the Uber and others. Is that a trend we're seeing more of? Because retail media kind of operated in this silo for a while, but now it's becoming a very rich inventory source for programmatic.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, retailers are still very focused on the endemic piece, right? Because I think there's a big hurdle if you're at a retailer to say we're going to put some other ad that's not driving to a transaction on our site. But I think with commerce media is where you see a lot more of like non-endemic can work, right? Like if we go back to like the Uber example where, yes, Uber Eats was where they started and drove a lot of revenue with a very endemic, right? Like we're going to promote a restaurant, a burger, whatever, when you're searching for this. But then they've moved to where now you're waiting for a ride, and and initially it was like, oh, we can show you something around the destination of where you're going. Then they also realized like, hey, we can just show you an ad for a holiday or an ad for a credit card or something else, right? That they can target based on their data. So I think with retailers, I think non-endemic will be coming, but it's still a little ways off. I think it's really for these commerce media opportunities where you you're in that transaction, there's some other opportunities that you see the non-endemic kind of coming into it.
You use the commerce media and retail media interchangeable. Like, how would you?
So
like,
I think of it as like two circles. Like retail media is inside of commerce media, right?
Right.
So retail media would be specifically a retailer where there are transactions happening. They could be digital or they could have actual stores. And then I think commerce media is kind of the larger circle around that, right? Where you put like an Uber would be a commerce media, PayPal is like a commerce media, but like a Tesco or somebody is like retail media.
we used to call them utility publishers, utility apps, like as in like you use PayPal as a utility, right? Like electricity, whatever payment, Uber to travel, and then the advertising business is adjacent to that. Like, is that where you see that happening?
Yeah, I think didn't we name it utility publishers together?
Yeah. I feel that we were ahead of our time.
Commerce media kind of.
Maybe we should start a new business, James.
Commerce media is a little better branding, though, I think, than utility publishers.
Yeah,
They did
but
beat us.
sorry,
Things are changing as well. I mean, I would jump in there. I mean, I know PayPal has been functional utility, but in terms
not
of
an insult, by the way, Henry.
well, it is becoming more of a shopping destination. And just to pick up your point about non-endemic advertisers, one of our first advertisers in Germany on our app was Mercedes. So they just saw the opportunity to target a high net worth audience, and loved the acquisition that we were able to create for them.
Can we talk a wee bit about this trend? Like, the press, well, the mainstream press are obsessed about the walled gardens taking over, but there seems to be such a rich flavor of businesses popping up now, like the likes of Uber or Deliveroo, or who have built out really good ad businesses off the back of their utility, in inverted commas. But like, that's a really exciting trend for the industry, right? Because there are new sort of avenues to buy from a non-endemic perspective, but also like it opens up a huge opportunity for endemic, right? So a lot of these smaller advertisers probably wouldn't have done audience extension or done more of the creative stuff. So it is a pretty exciting area of ad tech, James, like, and it's an interesting trend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we always joke that like we want to help people launch 1,000 walled gardens. Now, they might not necessarily be as walled in a bad way, right? But really, people that have unique first-party data that can demand, their fair share of media, like that's one of our goals, is to how many of those can we launch. I do think your other point is really interesting, which is that I do think there's a lot of advertisers being brought in that didn't previously advertise a lot.
It's net new money, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like we see this, like DoorDash is doing a great job of this in the United States, where they, like, similar to Uber Eats, they started out with very endemic, but then they started to learn that these small restaurants, small locally owned restaurant, had no clue how to buy media effectively, right? Like they would maybe go to Meta and try to spend a couple bucks, and they couldn't figure it out. And so they realized they can just become the, advertising, almost like default agency for these small restaurants that will spend money if it delivers results. And DoorDash can actually show that it delivered these results. And so they're doing offsite. They made the acquisition of Symbiosis, so kind of this offsite technology, so that they can basically go roll that out to all of these different restaurants to say, hey, you're not just buying on DoorDash, you're now buying on Meta, Google, Open Web, and we're driving that business back to DoorDash or driving it to in-store.
I think, if you think about Google, and that's one, it wouldn't be a panel without mentioning them, but
every year I have to give them a slap in the head.
They unlocked the long tail, didn't they? I mean,
Yeah.
Bob's Plumbing advertising on Google, and I think PayPal's in a similar position. You think about 30 million merchants, from the very big Walmart to the very small. It's about enabling that mid and long tail merchant community to access an ad product that can drive growth in their business, and that's very much part of the strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think exactly with PayPal, you could have somebody that's a smaller online retailer that also doesn't have a great idea of how to drive real results, that can turn to PayPal and say, PayPal knows when people are transacting on my website, and they can help bring these buyers back.
Is that who you're selling against, Henry, in the agencies? Your sort of like focused scale versus what I call scaled commoditization of Meta and Google, right? Like, you tap out on Google and Meta, but really there's incremental sort of results to be had on PayPal and other sort of commerce media, retail media solutions.
Yeah, I think, James said it in First Up, which is, it's being at the point of purchase. And I think that's potentially what those other walled gardens can't necessarily offer. For me, shopping is life. I mean, that's what a lot of, I look at my kids, that's what they do online. They just browse and shop, and it's their entertainment. And I think, to insert yourself into those purchase moments as a brand is a massive new opportunity. So I think it is fresh air that we can move into, yeah.
Talk about, just one last question about actually rolling this out. How difficult is it for a company like PayPal to kind of like build an ad business, like in terms of talent? Is it a different mindset? Because like it is a huge sort of change of direction for a company of that size. Like how difficult is it to get it off the ground and hire people and get the product right for the market and sort of get it going?
Well, I think in terms of hiring talent, it's the name does help. So I think we've managed to build a significant talent pool in the US. All of our products are commercial. Our strategies based in the US. The UK team will focus on sort of operations and sales. So I think that's been pretty easy to do, is to find the right people. But where we've had to pay special attention is how we interact with the rest of the business, because it'd be easy to build a separate advertising business, but we've had to leverage those relationships that PayPal already has with those massive retailers who are often the world's largest advertisers. And we've been pretty successful working with the relationships that our account teams already have into those businesses and generating sort of new leads and spend like that.
James, you seen that from the other clients you work with, like the difficulties of trying to get this up and running?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we work with a ton of companies going to build these new platforms, and I think the most exciting thing is that a lot of times what you see is the clients and vendors that you work with are actually excited about this, right? And I think that's what's kind of different. Where I think when we look back at traditional publishing, it's like, oh, another ad on the page when I'm trying to read an article. But we actually see is like vendors will say, oh, PayPal, this is really, I want to hear about this, right? Like I'm interested in this, or somebody who's stocking their new product at a retailer wants to know, how do I help sell this more, right? Like, how do I make my launch successful? Oh, you have this ad product now. That's awesome. That's what I want, right? I want to spend to drive sales. And so I think that a lot of times it's a lot easier than I think when more traditional media that we come from, because the vendors are usually excited about this opportunity to go out there and do that. But obviously finding talent is always hard. But now that we're kind of in this like second round of this, so I think you just see there's a lot more people out there that know how to do this, right? So like with Mark at PayPal, right? It's like he had come from knowing how to do, like doing this at Amazon, doing this at Uber, right? It's like there's people out there now in the market who have done this before, and so I think there's a lot of talent out there.
Do you think there'll be more companies building ad businesses? Do you see and who did they take that money off? Is it the big walled gardens, or is it just net new money?
I mean, politicians, I think it's a bit of both. My sales plan certainly is to sort of, access that merchant mid-tier spend.
Yeah.
So net new maybe, as you say. But at the same time, punch into big brand advertisers as well within the agency groups, and
which you will, in fairness. They'll want to work with you. But can you email that sales plan to me later on? I'll have a look at it and give you some feedback.
Sure.
Okay.
I'd say too, I think this is I think it was mentioned in the beginning talk, right? But with the changes with AI and what that's doing to search traffic, there's money out there that's not being spent now, right? Like there was money that was going to Google search results that isn't there, right? Because now people are just reading the AI answer and moving on. And so I think there's actually money that's going to shift from a Google or other kind of search provider into retail media, because that's the closest analogy, right? Like we're close to the transaction here. It's not kind of branding dollars. And so I think that's the other place where you're going to see the shift, and it's actually an opportunity for retail and commerce. Because as you said, your kids
you don't think the agentics will disrupt the lower funnel from a retail media perspective?
I think a lot less, because like you said perfectly, like your kids love to shop. Everybody loves to shop, right? You might go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for new golf clubs or something like that, and it might tell you about all your options. But then I guarantee you go look around at them, right? You go to the site and you kind of browse them and you read about it, because you're enjoying that, right? Like shopping is fun, right? It's why all these people are walking up and down Oxford Street. Like people like to do it, and so like there's still going to be those opportunities to reach buyers while they're doing that shopping.
Very good. And obviously, Kev was open platform API, so you'd like to talk to other third-party vendors as well about integrating data and helping to augment the PayPal structure. So Henry's available for coffee for a couple hours after. Only joking. Thanks, guys. Great discussion, and we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.